It started, as most catastrophes do, with a committee. Specifically, the Ninth Imperial Diplomatic Survey of Sentient Species Integration, otherwise known as NIDSI, or more commonly by its unfortunate phonetic nickname, NINI. Seated around the Galactic Obsidian Conference table were 9 high-ranking alien officials, each wearing the smug expression of a creature convinced of its cultural superiority. A Xerexian with 6 eye stalks clicked a holoscreen to life, showcasing a human kindergarten. "Observe," he purred. "Primitive bipeds, barely off their own dirtball, but their progeny show cooperative traits. Docile, submissive, curious." A scaly Garrulax leaned forward. "Docile is good. Curiosity is leverage." A bored Krellian War Admiral sighed. "Get to the point. We've taken 3 young ones. Daughters. Females. For study." The room buzzed with approval. An abduction, but a polite one. "Any retaliation expected?" A thin-lipped bureaucrat answered without looking up. "Father is deceased. Mother unknown." Earth filed no protest. Typical emotional ineptitude. What no one noticed was the timestamp. Earth hadn't protested yet. Watson Hale stood in the middle of his quiet kitchen, stirring his 3rd cup of coffee with unsettling calm. He stared at the datapad sitting on the oak counter, a pad that blinked with the coordinates of an alien transmission buried in the electromagnetic noise of Pluto's shadow. He didn't scream. He didn't smash anything. He simply whispered, "Well, that was a mistake." His voice was even, measured, the way old soldiers speak when the war in their bones starts to stretch awake again. Behind him, 3 chairs sat neatly pushed under a pinewood table. On each chair was a hand-knit sweater. He touched the smallest one. Then he disappeared. Aboard the Dominion-class vessel Triumphant Awe, Commander Bryn of the Galactic Empire reviewed the security report with one bulbous eye and munched noisily on protein cubes with the other 5. "The human requests a meeting," he scoffed. "Yes," his adjutant confirmed. "Name, Watson Hale. Civilian. Former planetary surveyor. No military record on galactic databases." Bryn laughed. "Let him. Send a decoy fleet to keep him occupied. Schedule his little protest for next week." "But sir," the adjutant hesitated. "He's already on board." Bryn's chewing stopped. "What do you mean he's on board?" A door hissed open behind them. Watson Hale stepped in. No armor. No weapons. No backup. Just denim, a flannel shirt, and eyes like the edge of a knife. "Gentlemen," he said politely, "I believe you have something of mine." "You're trespassing," Bryn hissed. Watson smiled. "I knocked." Nobody answered. The room flickered with tension. Guards shifted. Blasters buzzed to life. "I came to ask where my daughters are." "We don't negotiate with primitives," Bryn snapped. Watson cocked his head. "That's all right. I didn't come to negotiate." A beat of silence stretched. Then he continued, voice pleasant. "I used to be in landscaping, you know. Spent years surveying topography for farming projects. Terraforming. But I was let go. Let go. They said I had too many survivor notches in my rifle. Sniper rifle. Didn't bring it, though. Didn't need it." He gestured around. "You're all right here." Bryn's adjutant gulped. As security attempted to arrest him, something strange happened. Watson didn't resist. He waited until the cuffs clicked, then sighed. "Ah, good. You used the cheap ones." A snap. The cuffs fell to the floor in 2 perfect halves. The guards froze. So did the air. Then Watson stepped forward, slow and unhurried, looking at each alien face like a father inspecting his kids' report cards. "See, you took the wrong girls." "You claim they are yours," Bryn growled. "Oh no," Watson said softly. "They're not just mine. They're mine after everything. Born after the last war. Raised with my rules. Trained with my hands. You didn't take children. You took weapons I haven't even tested yet." Bryn stuttered. "This is absurd." Watson chuckled. "Of course it is." Then his eyes darkened. "But absurd is what we do best." The next hour was a blur of reports. Security footage scrambled. Cameras looped. Hallways inexplicably vented oxygen. An entire scout vessel vanished mid-docking. None of it made sense. Because it wasn't supposed to. Hale wasn't fighting. He was distracting. The real war had already begun. In a remote orbit beyond the Lister cloud, 3 human children sat quietly aboard a camouflaged pod nestled in a comet trail. Their voices hummed over encrypted comms. "Dad's already inside?" "Yeah," the eldest said, adjusting a scope longer than her arm. "Bet he's smiling like he's shopping for peaches." The youngest giggled. "What if they make him mad?" "Oh," her sister replied. "They won't like that." Behind them, Earth's secret weapon systems, simple, unflashy, devastating, awaited only one word. Back aboard Triumphant Awe, Watson Hale sat in the holding cell. No restraints, no guards, no cameras, because all of it had stopped working when he walked in. Bryn stormed in, flanked by elite Karnosh troopers. "You will tell us what you've done." Watson blinked, amused. "Done. I've just arrived." "You're already too late." Bryn slammed his clawed fist on the wall. "What are you?" "I'm a dad." "That doesn't answer." "I'm the dad." He leaned forward, whispering. "The one your database is redacted. The one who's been off the radar since the Telari uprising. I built my house underground and taught my kids how to blind an assassin with a teaspoon before they could tie their shoes." One of the guards involuntarily stepped back. "You think humans are just chaos monkeys with guns." Watson continued. "We're not. We're pattern-breaking anomalies. We bake cookies while designing orbital strike patterns on napkins. We garden next to nuclear silos." Bryn stared in horror. "You're bluffing." Watson stood. "Try me." The moment he stood, the ship's engines shut down. Emergency systems collapsed. And in the vast black outside, 30 unmarked ships decloaked, each shaped like junk, rusted, unremarkable. But the moment they moved, it became obvious. They weren't junk. They were death wearing camo. Each ship locked onto the Triumphant Awe like a hawk fixing on prey. And in Watson's hand, no one saw him draw it, was a small, humming beacon. He smiled. "Found them." In the Empire's high command tower, someone screamed. "Who is he?" A data clerk stammered. "Commander Watson Hale. Retired. Presumed dead. Alias in the Human Shadow Operative Database, the Pine Ghost." Another admiral shouted. "Why Pine Ghost?" "Because, sir, he only ever operated in forests. Never left shell casings. Never missed. And no one ever saw him coming." The room fell silent. Then every screen on the bridge turned blue. An image appeared. 3 girls. Smiling. Holding up a hand-painted sign. "Hi, Dad. Targets acquired." The final image from the Triumphant Awe before blackout showed Watson Hale dusting off his sleeves, as though he'd just cleaned a barn. He turned to Bryn with a casual shrug. "You're about to be forgotten." A pause. Then he added, voice like granite wrapped in velvet, "And that's me being merciful." In a distant sector, a rookie galactic cadet whispered to her captain, "Why are humans so strange?" The captain didn't answer. He simply pulled the emergency beacon from his belt and crushed it. Because they pretend they're weak until you mistake their calm for kindness. The room smelled like ozone and arrogance. Commander Bryn stood before the holographic projection of a railgun shell. His 6 eyes twitched with disdain. "This," he sneered. "This is what humans fight with." The projection rotated, displaying the shell's blunt casing, electromagnetic seams, and dull metal tip. Unpolished. Ugly. Projectile-based technology. No AI targeting. No plasma. No elegance. Behind him, a circle of Galactic Empire officers laughed. It was a sound that echoed off polished steel walls, smug, comfortable, detached. Admiral Hale, an avian-faced strategist from the Tveran system, tilted his beak. "Like throwing sticks at a storm." Bryn nodded. "Let them bring sticks. We'll bring the void." None of them noticed the quiet technician in the corner, recording the meeting on an obsolete Terran device, a VHS camcorder with the label property of Hale. Elsewhere, on the shadow side of a shattered moon orbiting the gas giant Voss 5, Watson Hale walked the length of a stripped-down freighter. His daughter's coordinates blinked in green across a curved screen, now protected by 4 untraceable satellites disguised as asteroid fragments. "Captain," said a voice from the ship's intercom. "The Empire intercepted the railgun package. They're laughing." Watson scratched his jaw. "Good. Let them." He opened a crate with a hiss. Inside, a slab of gunmetal, marked with hand-etched initials. Yellar. Extended long range. Emma. Lila. Rose. Named for his girls. Bryn's tactical board shimmered with red indicators, each one marked Primitive Tech Alert. He snorted. "They scatter these outdated weapons like rust confetti." Hale peered at the data feed. "They lack elegance. They lack understanding," Bryn corrected. "Let me show you something fun." He pressed a control. On the view screen, a human drone zipped through an asteroid belt. It was barely cobbled together: duct tape, ceramic panels, visible wires. A plasma bolt from an Empire cruiser cut through it like butter. The room clapped. Bryn grinned. End of human improvisation. But then the debris turned, piece by piece, reassembling. Not by engineering, by gravity. "Wait," someone whispered. The drone wasn't the weapon. The asteroid it collided with had just detonated. A 20-megaton mine shaped like a rock. Silence fell. Bryn slowly turned toward the tech operator. "Was that intentional?" The technician gulped. "Yes, sir. Human-built. Remote-triggered. And, they did it using Morse code." "Morse what?" Meanwhile, aboard a ship shaped like a garbage scow and officially registered as the Forklift, Watson was pouring coffee. A Marine sat across from him, bleeding slightly from the eyebrow. "Sir," the Marine asked, "why do we name our bombs after food?" Watson sipped. "Because when you drop meatloaf on a command station, it's better than saying tactical thermobaric warhead with fragmenting shell dispersal. Also," he paused, "no one takes pudding seriously until it eats their reactor." The Marine chuckled. Watson tapped the map again. "They still don't get it. They're trying to match us. But our goal isn't symmetry. It's disruption." He leaned in. "They think a good weapon is shiny. We think a good weapon is unpredictable." In Empire Command, a new report arrived. Bryn flipped it open. Case file, 7K47. He scanned. A field officer found an old Terran crate during recon. Inside, a rifle, bolts, scope, analog calibration. No chips. Standard, right? Until they tested it. The rifle fired, and the round disappeared. Then a flagship 30 kilometers away reported a hole in its outer hull, followed by a second hole, followed by a missing captain. No sound, no beam, no trail, just gone. They called it ghost shot. Bryn clenched the edge of the table. "Where did they get this?" The analyst's voice cracked. "We asked a prisoner. He said the rifle's from a place called Montana." 3 days later, a diplomatic envoy of the Empire met Watson Hale in a remote asteroid cave. They brought gifts, treaty papers, apology letters, and protein cubes. Watson brought a paperclip. The alien stared. "What is that?" "A reset switch," Watson said calmly. He clipped it into an ancient Terran laptop. The laptop hummed to life. A screen blinked. Target lock acquired. The cave ceiling opened. Above them, a floating black cube shimmered into visibility. An orbital cannon wrapped in stealth polymers older than most empires. The ambassador dropped his cube snack. "Please," he stammered, "let us see your primitive weapons." Watson smiled. "Sure." He snapped. The cube vanished, not in explosion, but in compression. A bubble of silence formed around it. Gravity flipped. Time reversed. And then it simply wasn't there. The ambassador fell to his knees. That wasn't a weapon. That was physics breaking." "Yeah," Watson said. "We built it by accident trying to make toast with uranium coils." Back on the Triumphant, panic had started to set in. 3 listening posts blinked offline. No breach. No logs. Just gone. In one, the last recorded message was, "There's a whisper in the walls. It's laughing." Bryn growled, "Deploy PsyOps division. Track Hale's comms." But sir, the technician said nervously, he doesn't have any comms. He's transmitting by reflection, using gravity wells, planetoids, refraction from gas clouds. Bryn froze. He's bouncing his signals off nature. Yes. Then how are we picking them up? We're not. He wants us to think we are. Inside a cloaked freighter labeled Laundry Unit 9, Hale met with two other humans, a demolitions expert named Tuck and a sarcastic hacker called McCree. Tuck lit a cigar. So what's the play? Watson unfolded a crude paper map, drawn in pencil, smudged. McCree blinked. We're using this? Against the most powerful empire in the galaxy. It's hand-drawn, Hale said. They can't hack it, can't trace it, and it's waterproof. Plus, Rose drew a dragon in the corner. Tuck smiled. God, I love being human. McCree raised a brow. We're chaos, sir. Pure chaos. Watson tapped the map. We're not chaos. With a reminder. The next Empire assault failed before it began. Their ships launched with fanfare, banners, and the grand march of inevitability. But none arrived at their destination. Each vessel, at precisely 3:17, developed spontaneous system resets. Their engines rebooted mid-jump. Their coordinates inverted. One arrived back inside its own hangar, upside down. Another reappeared underwater in a Terran lake, where a fisherman offered them lemonade. No deaths. No explosions. Just confusion. Untraceable sabotage. Bryn watched the footage in horror. Who does this? The tech whispered, humans, sir. In the dead silence of galactic space, a final message blipped across all Empire frequencies. A short video. Watson Hale, sitting in a rocking chair, holding a mug that said world's okayest dad. He smiled warmly. My girls like puzzles. You gave them plenty. He took a sip. And now you're inside one. The video cut. And with it, every satellite the Empire owned began playing Earth's national anthem. Backwards. Through static. One line repeated. Please, let us see your primitive weapons. They were still trying to make sense of it. Every general in the Galactic Empire. Every strategist, analyst, and war game simulator. Each sitting in opulent war rooms built from metals their ancestors mined during the Empire's rise. Surrounded by holograms, AI advisors, and centuries of doctrine. And none of it helped. The moment they tried to apply logic to the human offensive, the map stopped making sense. A station disappears here. A resupply fleet reverses course and ends up in a temporal loop. A ground unit reports hearing jazz music before their weapons disassemble themselves. It wasn't war. It was theater. And humanity was directing it. On the bridge of the Windshear Crown, Admiral Clark slammed a tentacle on the table. Explain to me again how a species without universal translation compatibility just shut down our comm grid. Her aide adjusted his translator. They're using their accents, Admiral. What? Regional accents. Specifically, Southern American English. It's causing our AI linguistics processors to crash. How? They keep saying phrases like fixin' to, and y'all best not. The system thinks they're 24 different languages. The Admiral blinked, furious. Somewhere in the background, a human voice chirped over the Empire's loudspeakers. Y'all ever seen what happens when duct tape meets zero gravity? Then came the explosion. Watson Hale stood on the observation deck of the forklift, sipping lukewarm coffee. Below him, a galactic supply convoy twisted like spaghetti through redirected wormholes. Every jump gate had been reprogrammed. By hand. By his daughters. Emma sat at a console, chewing gum like it owed her money. Lila leaned back, balancing a neural blade on her fingertip. And Rose? Rose was on the roof, recalibrating a railgun to fire old typewriter keys at hypersonic velocity. Watson watched with fatherly pride. He didn't teach them how to fight like warriors. He taught them how to think like predators. Meanwhile, Galactic High Command descended into chaos. Send an elite unit, someone shouted. Already lost contact. Deploy psi-shielded drones. They started playing country music. Our AIs entered nihilistic loops. Someone screamed, "Where's Bryn?" The answer came too late. On a foggy mining moon orbiting Callus Prime, Bryn staggered through the remains of his personal escort. They weren't dead. That would have been expected. They were humming, each of them locked in a trance, arms waving like malfunctioning puppets. One drooled. Another murmured, "Y'all got any more of that brisket?" And standing before them, adjusting his collar and dusting off his boots, was Watson Hale. "Bryn," he said warmly, "I've been looking for you." Bryn turned, wild-eyed. What is this?" "This isn't war. This is madness." "No," Watson said, stepping closer. "This is what happens when your empire forgets what fear smells like." He pulled a can from his coat and tossed it. It landed with a clink at Bryn's feet. "Beans." Bryn whimpered. "Explosive," Watson smiled. Boom. 3 hours later, Admiral Clark activated the Red Protocol, the Empire's final measure. A tactic used once every 1,000 years, complete psychological domination. Mind-tethering pulse waves designed to induce fear, panic, and surrender in enemy forces. They launched it toward Earth and waited. 17 seconds later, the signal bounced back with a message. "Nice try. We turned it into a lullaby. Babies are sleeping now." Clark fell back in her chair. "Send someone to talk to him," she whispered. "Send anyone." So they did. The Galactic Empire dispatched an ambassador with 27 peace treaties, 10 security guards, and 1 brave heart. His name was Rel Vun, a scholar, a diplomat, a believer in logic. He met Watson in a greenhouse. No guards, no weapons, just tomatoes and sunshine. "I come unarmed," Rel Vun said, bowing. "So did the virus that wiped out your planet's corn industry," Watson replied, not looking up. Rel Vun cleared his throat. "We offer peace." "Peace is earned," Watson said. "We surrender." "No," he said, slowly turning. "You panic. There's a difference." Rel Vun trembled. "What do you want?" Watson walked to a row of hanging vines and plucked a cherry tomato. "My daughters." "You have them," Rel Vun stammered. Watson turned. The tomato in his hand pulsed red. "Then I want you to remember this." He crushed it. A dozen satellites orbiting the Empire's core worlds blinked off simultaneously, each carrying their economy's central memory core. Gone. Lila watched the data stream vanish from the forklift console. "Transmission terminated," she said. Emma high-fived her. "We just deleted capitalism." Rose poked her head in through the vent. "Hey, I taught a jellyfish how to swear." Watson raised a brow. "You what?" he asked nicely. He paused. "Fair." By the time the Empire tried to retaliate, nothing made sense. A fleet of 800 cruisers reappeared in the orbit of a brown dwarf labeled Earth Bait Planet. It was a fake, so convincing that the AI system swore it was Terra. One ship even began playing a 4th of July fireworks loop. As the Admiral screamed for retraction, their systems locked, and a human voice whispered, "Say hi to Pluto's angry cousin." The dwarf star flared. A weaponized energy burst, melted half the fleet. The other half? Still spinning, somewhere in interstellar tick-tock. Admiral Clark sat alone. Every other council member had left, or disappeared, or started believing in higher powers. Clark stared at the stars. "They never fought us," she whispered. "Not directly. They never had to." Behind her, Rel Vun entered. He was pale, shaken. He didn't speak. He handed her a single file. Watson Hale's record. No birth date. No confirmed species. Only one note. "Do not provoke." She leaned forward. "Find out how many more there are." Rel Vun gulped. "You don't want to know." Meanwhile, Watson and the girls sat beneath a Terran sky, the first in months. The stars stretched across black velvet. Lila stared up. "They'll never come back, will they?" Watson didn't answer immediately. He took a long sip of tea. "No," he said finally. "But not because they're afraid." "Then why?" "Because they're finally smart enough to realize." He looked at her. "We let them think they had a chance." Far across the galaxy, an underground resistance, composed entirely of alien species, formed a quiet alliance. They didn't want power. They just wanted to not be noticed. Their motto, carved into a stone: "Do not engage with Earth." Do not mention Watson Hale. Do not take their kids. And deep inside a vault older than most civilizations, the humans added another file to a shelf marked Reasons to Never Smile First. Watson's photo sat on top. Worn boots, wrinkled shirt, smile that could part clouds or murder your future. Next to it, in childlike handwriting, Dad's plan: 1. Get them back. 2. Make sure they never forget. Mission accomplished. Step 3. Just started. The Galactic Empire never formally surrendered. There was no ceremony, no white flag raised, no ambassador laying a medal at the feet of their conquerors. That wasn't humanity's way. And more importantly, that wasn't Watson Hale's way. The Empire simply stopped answering their own calls. Systems went dark. Archives purged themselves. Military assets vanished from the network, as if self-deleting out of shame. The galactic news channels pivoted, suddenly claiming Earth had always been a valued cultural contributor. Spineless cowardice rebranded as diplomacy. It was funny. Tragic, too, in a way. But mostly funny. Watson Hale watched it unfold from a ridge overlooking a defunct Empire listening station, now reduced to twisted metal and poetic justice. He stood alone, hands tucked into his jacket pockets, while a soft breeze rolled across the grass. There was no war cry, no parade. Just the sound of a man watching dominoes fall exactly where he planned them to. Behind him, his daughters were laughing. They were building something. A new scanner tower, or possibly a hot chocolate dispenser rigged to track orbital movement. With them, it was hard to tell. But it didn't matter. They were safe. And he wasn't done. Not yet. Not until the Empire heard him say the last word. He tapped a device the size of a thumbtack, stuck it to his collar, and said, "Broadcast. Encrypted. Interceptable. To every frequency they still think we don't know." It blinked once. Then his voice filled the stars. Empire. Just one word. And 1,000 admirals sat up at once. A dozen intercepted feeds flickered on screens across hidden bunkers and emergency war rooms. All of them, by now, rebuilt in secret deep below planetary crusts, where they thought human eyes couldn't reach. They were wrong. "Don't worry," the voice continued. "We're not here to start a war." A pause. Not anymore. In a conference chamber orbiting the Empire's second homeworld, a young officer reached to cut the feed. His superior, an old gray-scaled worthy, slapped his hand away. "Listen," the elder growled. "That's not a voice you interrupt." "You thought we came to compete," Watson said. His voice was steady, calm. The kind of calm that made predators go still in the underbrush. That's the first mistake. A map flashed into every screen. Not a galaxy-wide invasion plan, but a history of every Empire operation against Earth over the last 50 years. Every lie, every backroom deal, every child kidnapped under the excuse of study. "I let you take them," he continued, "because I needed to find out how deep your arrogance ran." A silence fell so thick across Empire command it could have been mistaken for vacuum. "You didn't take prisoners. You signed a contract." Clark watched in horror as data began scrolling. Human data. Precise, surgical, relentless. Every location of every covert Empire strike site now lit up like someone had poured gasoline across a star map. And then, one by one, each location flickered red. Destroyed. In the exact order they were originally built. It wasn't just warfare. It was reverse architecture. One admiral screamed, "He's unwinding us." "No," Clark whispered. "He's collecting." On Earth, in a quiet forest clearing masked from all sensors, Watson stood as a dozen drones, camouflaged, silent, lethal, settled around him like obedient wolves. Behind him, Emma finished welding the final panel onto a small device shaped like a birdhouse. "Dad," she called, "we're ready." "Good," he replied. "Should I press it?" "Not yet. Let's see if they get the message." He returned to the live feed. "Let me be clear," he said. "We didn't come to match your systems, or to win your games, or to prove we belong in your precious data archives." His voice dropped an octave. "We came to show you what happens when apex predators let you borrow peace." In an Empire facility deep under ice, the walls began to vibrate. Not with bombs, with sound. A frequency calibrated to human brainwaves, but inverted. Alien tech started behaving like it was born on Earth. Gravity generators pulled in the wrong direction. Cryopods thawed. Lights blinked out of rhythm. And then came the projection. Watson Hale, sipping coffee. You like control. So we gave you chaos. He smiled. Now we're taking it back. Then everything went black. Back aboard the forklift, Lila tapped into the remnants of Empire military networks. Dad, I'm in. Deep. Subcore. Backup level 4. They were trying to rebuild a fallback plan. Wipe it. You want subtle or theatrical? Watson smiled. Girls, what's our motto? Rose answered first. Never hit once if you can hit 3 times at once. Emma. Make it look like a weather pattern. Lila. Don't leave evidence. Watson nodded. Make me proud. 3 keystrokes later, the largest military backup array in the quadrant was infected with a laughing baby sound that increased in pitch until the servers melted. No data was recovered. Relvun stood in the remains of a diplomatic satellite, surrounded by panicked officials. We must retaliate, someone screamed. With what? Another shouted. Every time we strike back, he just smiles. Relvun raised a hand. He's not fighting a war. They all turned to him. He's fulfilling a promise. The room went silent. Then Relvun whispered, he didn't threaten to destroy us. He told us we already did that to ourselves. Clark broke protocol. She initiated the one action never permitted in galactic history. Emergency personal contact. A single call, directed straight to Watson Hale's personal frequency. To her shock, he answered. Admiral, he said politely. Her voice cracked. I wish to speak. You are. I didn't know. We didn't know what you were. That's true. Clark breathed heavily. Can it end here? Of course, Watson said warmly. It ended the moment you stopped thinking you were in charge. Then what do we do? You rebuild. She swallowed. And you? He took a sip of his coffee. We collect. Later that day, Earth received an unexpected delivery. A crate. Inside, 77 apology letters, written in 12 alien languages, signed by high-ranking Galactic Empire officials, each one sealed with personal blood, and tucked beneath them a simple note, handwritten. To the Hale family, please accept our regrets. We will not come again. Watson stood on the edge of a quiet lake, watching the horizon burn with the light of 30 dying satellites. His daughters stood beside him. You did it, Emma whispered. No, he said. We did. Rose tilted her head. Is it over? Watson watched the final Empire transmission blink out like a dying firefly. Almost. A pause. Let's go collect the rest. They left Earth with no fanfare. No farewell parades. No monuments. Just a trail of ghost signatures and stories the galaxy would never stop whispering. Wherever Watson Hale went, peace followed, but not because he asked for it. Because it feared the alternative. In a far-off galaxy, a merchant once asked a traveler why the stars near Sector 9 burned a different color. The traveler smiled. Those stars remember a human's promise. And what was it? Simple, the traveler said. We don't come to compete. We come to collect.